What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel and to my 10,000 subscriber Q&A special. So basically, in today's video, I just wanted to spend all of my time answering the questions that you guys left for me on Discord, Twitter, and of course through the comment section. I feel like this is the least I can do to just give back to you guys for allowing me to achieve my hopes and dreams. So yeah, one other thing that you should know about this Q&A is I'm probably not going to get to every single question just because there were a lot of them, and there were some repeats as well. But if there was some sort of reason why I ended up missing your question, then don't hesitate to ask me again down in the comment section because I will try and answer as many questions as I can down there too. Okay, so let's start off with the Discord and Twitter questions just because there weren't a lot of either of those. So first off, Thor wants to know, if you could live in any imaginary world or universe with one person of your choice, what universe would it be, for what reason, who would you take with you, and is there a specific thing that you would really want to do in that universe? So that's a pretty interesting and deep question that you asked me, Thor. Like, I have to put some thought into this. So when I think about it, I'd probably want to live in the world of Pokemon, but as long as it's not in like any sort of situation where people could like abuse the Pokemon and be really evil, I want it to be like a pretty peaceful place. So a peaceful Pokemon world, and I guess I'd take the girl of my dreams with me, whoever that is. I don't know who it is at the moment, but that person I'd like to have by my side. And would there be anything I want to do in that universe? Probably just be a beast and win tournaments or something. I don't know. I think that'd be pretty cool. Like, become the champion of whatever region it is. I know that's like a really geeky and random answer to give, but that's the first thing that came to mind, so I'll just roll with that. So next up, Googly Eyes wants to know, if I could build my dream 8-man roster that includes me to try and win it all with no memes, who would I sign? No limits besides legal stuff like age. I mean, it's kind of tough to say. I don't really know any of the players, so I don't know if I'd get along with any of them or if I'd even play to begin with. But obviously, besides me, I think I'd probably at least have Sabiobi. I think he's definitely a staple on my team just because he's a really good leader and just a good guy, a very positive influence. On main support, there'd be me as a backup, and then Moth would be the starter because I feel he is really skilled, first off, and consistent, but also at the same time, he's a great leader and he knows how to keep his teammates in check and not be too cocky. Then on flex support, I think I'd have Dogman just because you need a hype man on your team. I think it's really good to have at least some energy. Then for the other DPS, I'd say probably Corey and Architect. I think they're both pretty godly and pretty flexible overall, so I'll go with those two plus Sabiobi. Then the tank line, it's a bit more complicated. I think I'll go off tank on Choyobin because why not? He's a god. Then on main tank, I'll go Gamsu. I'll shake it up with him because I know that he can speak English pretty decent, kind of like with Choyobin, but also I like the veteran presence he has since he not only played in the Overwatch League, he was also, what was it, like a League of Legends pro or whatever it was, so he just has so much experience with esports in general, so I think it'd be great to have a guy like that on my team. Okay, so moving on to the next question. Overwatch on Switch wants to know, if Kirby ate you, what ability would he get? I guess the ability to make decent YouTube videos? I don't know. I guess. That sounds pretty stupid, but I can't really think of anything. I'm pretty boring other than just making YouTube content, I'd say. Okay, so next up, Phantom wants to know, if I could return a retired player to professional play, who would it be and why? I think I'd pick Seagull just because I really like Seagull. I thought that he was one of the best players in the league, especially once he started picking up D.Va. I firmly believe that Seagull could pretty much play any hero at a high level, so I think I'd pick him just because I really miss him. Okay, so next up, Potato Chips asks, not really Overwatch related, but just a general question. You've mentioned sports multiple times, so which teams are your favorite for the NBA, NFL, NHL, etc.? So even though I like the Valiant, I'm kind of mostly into New York sports teams. I know like it's kind of weird since I'm from Connecticut, but I don't know, that's just kind of like what I was raised to like other than with the Valiant. So for the NBA, I like the Knicks. The NFL, I'm a Giants fan. NHL is a weird one because I don't really watch hockey all that much, and I kind of think that the Rangers are boring and the Islanders and all of those teams in general. So for some reason, I like the San Jose Sharks just because I think their logo's cool. And then for the MLB, I like the Yankees, but again, kind of like with the NHL, I don't pay too much attention to baseball. I'm a big NBA and NFL guy. So now Cons wants to know, ATP, what's your favorite Pokemon? Mine's Seismitoad, as you can probably tell. So I've kind of switched between the years about like some of my top favorites, but the consistent number one has always been Charizard for me. I know that's kind of boring and just everybody likes Charizard. He's a dragon, he looks cool, blah, blah, blah. But Charizard was one of my first ever Pokemon. Like the Charmander evolution line, that was the first ever starter I had. Pokemon Fire Red was my first game. I picked Charmander and I just have a very special bond with that Charizard. It's my first ever level 100 Pokemon. I just love it so much. So yeah, Charizard's my favorite. So now Cam Runer wants to know, what are your thoughts on our Lord and Savior Zephyr? Well, I think the answer to that should be pretty obvious considering the fact that we have a church devoted to the guy in the Discord. Plus he's kind of just a living and breathing meme around these parts. So yeah, I love Zephyr. Got You Lover 77 7777 asks me, how do you think Zephyr is so good compared to the rest of the league's mediocre flex tanks? Well, it's probably because he's so rich on the scrim bucks. Like, all the other flex tanks are just so jealous and they can't keep up. They aren't rich enough. They don't have enough scrim bucks. Next to Fat Ninja wants to know if I'm going to be watching the Rugby World Cup, and if so, who will I be supporting? So to be honest, I've actually never watched rugby before, so unfortunately I won't be supporting anybody or watching the event in general probably, but maybe one day I'll try and watch it and see if I can get into it. Okay, so those are all the Discord questions, so now let's quickly move on to a couple of Twitter DMs I got. Okay, so first up, Jojo for Hinky says, my Q&A question is, have you ever thought about doing some gameplay videos during the off season? Well, probably not. I mean, maybe. Not on this channel because I want to just focus it more on the Overwatch League and not anything else. But perhaps I'll make a gaming channel in the future, or maybe I'll even stream some Overwatch. I'll need to get a better setup before I can do that, but maybe one day. We'll have to see. The next question comes from Lucky Dog OW, and he wants to know, if you were approached by an OWL team other than the LA Valiant to play for them, what would you do? Well, first off, I would accept the contract without hesitation so long as I know my living arrangements would be good, because this is like a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, you know? You get to play against the best talent in the world, you get paid well, you get to travel around the world. That sounds like a really good experience that I would not want to miss out on, even if it means I ride the bench. I don't care. I would definitely accept the contract without hesitation. My next question comes from Hugo. I'm probably going to butcher this. Bergeron6, and he says, I love all your work. You're the best. What job do you want to do in your life? Well, to be honest, I don't know. I'd love to be a professional YouTuber and do that full-time one day, but if not, we'll just have to see where life takes me. I'm going to college right now for game design and development. We're going to see how that goes, and I'll go from there, I guess. I don't know what's in my future right now, but I'm excited to find out. That much is for sure. Metallica360 wants to know, do you think there's a problem in Overwatch having so many objects displayed on screen, or is it just the heroes that are played on that meta that summons that many objects? I mean, I don't know. I think it can be a little chaotic at times, especially if like everybody spams their ults and all of their things at once, like Symmetra Teleporter, Symmetra Shield, blah, blah, blah. But that's only sometimes. Overall, I wouldn't say it's a problem. Only once in a great while, it's like super chaotic and hard to follow, you know? So that's all we have from Twitter. So moving on to the YouTube comments now. Starting off with Joel Irizarry. I know I probably butchered that really hard. But anyway, this person wants to know, has there ever been a team or player that at first I didn't like or wasn't interested in, but now I like them? To be honest, probably Super of the San Francisco Shock. It's not that I didn't like him, it's more that during Season 1, I didn't care about him or much about the Shock in general, but then in Season 2, his personality, it just, I don't know, I really liked it, and I enjoy his streams, so I'll go with Super. So next up, Vincent who, I know I probably just said that really bad, again, I apologize, but anyway, he says, hey, ATP, which rank are you, and do you have a girlfriend? Okay, so to answer the first question, I'm Masters on support, like low Masters, 3600-ish. My peak, I was a 4100 player way back in the day, but I'm kind of washed at this point, and I have yet to place on my tank and DPS, so yeah, I'm a 3600 support player right now. And to answer the second question, no, I do not have a girlfriend, and I never have. I've been single for the 20 years of my existence, and, you know, I'm kind of available, ladies. I'm here. I know that sounded really stupid, but no going back now. We're keeping it in the video, I guess. The next question comes from a longtime supporter of mine, Amara Mick. Shout out to you, dude. I'm still just so happy to have you here after all this time. Much love. But anyway, he says, what's your favorite food? Well, to be honest, I'm not too picky with what I eat. I like a lot of different things, but because of my Italian background, I'm kind of big into pizza and like pasta dishes and stuff. So one of those two things, I guess. Merge King has two questions for me, the first of which I already answered because I talked about my rank just a second ago, but what is my favorite character for each role is a pretty interesting question. If we're going strictly like all the different positions in the Overwatch League, on main support, I'd go with Lucio. He's kind of like my main since the beta. Flex support, I'm a big Ana person. Then on DPS, I love Widow, even though I'm really bad at her, so that's my favorite hit scan. My favorite projectiles, probably Hanzo or Pharah. Then off tank, I like D.Va, and main tank Reinhardt. Leo Ford wants to know, will I ever start tier 2/3 content, or will I strictly keep to OWL? Well, it really depends. I think I'll most likely stick with Overwatch League content, but during the off-season, you never know. I might get bored and just start exploring. I've been wanting to watch a little bit more tier 2 stuff, but I've never really gotten around to it, so maybe I'll cover the gauntlet. We'll have to see. Oz Days asks, what teams do you think will rise/fall in the standings for the 2020 season? Well, to be honest, I kind of want to wait and see what teams do during the offseason before I get a better idea of how good I think they'll be in the future, but I will admit that I think the Charge are probably going to be on the rise. I kind of like what their team did towards the end of 2019, and I think they're going to be in really good shape come 2020. Mountain LP wants to know, how did you get into Overwatch as a game? Well, to put a long story short, basically, a really close friend of mine one day when we were in class, I don't remember what grade I was in high school, but doesn't really matter. Anyway, he showed me the trailer for Overwatch. He's like, hey, you should check out this game. It's pretty cool. And I was like, wow, this does look pretty cool. And then he said, hey, the beta comes out soon. You should get it. So I played with him and a couple of other close friends. And yeah, that's how I got into the game. I was addicted ever since. Like, seriously, when the beta was over, I was like suffering withdrawals. It was so much fun. It was one of the most fun games I played in a long time, even though I was pretty bad at the time. And funny enough, all of those people who I played with during the beta days never ended up actually getting the game. I was the only one out of that small friend group. So yeah, thank you so much, Mario. You're probably not watching this video, but thank you so much for getting me into Overwatch, because look where I am now because of it. Like, seriously, I can't thank you enough. Anyway, Lido W wants to know, what was my childhood like, hobbies, etc.? Well, to be honest, my childhood was really good. I don't have much to complain about at all. My life has always been really good. I have a supportive family. Even though I didn't have a lot of friends, the friends that I did have, I was really close with. And yeah, I think that's part of the reason I love my life so much today, because I had such a good childhood. And to answer the hobby question, well, I didn't really do a lot of extracurricular activities because I was kind of self-conscious, especially in high school. But I loved to play basketball and football in my spare time. I collected cards and I played a lot of video games. Shay Toman wants to know, what was the hardest part about moving out to live here at new college? I think it has to do with the social aspect, just because I don't know anybody and I'm kind of in this unfamiliar place. I'm sleeping there, I'm living there, and I don't know anybody, you know? Even my roommates, they're not around all that often. So it's been kind of tough to adjust to that, but the good news is that I can kind of come home whenever I want because I live 30 minutes away from my house. So yeah, I usually tend to go home on weekends. I think it really does me a lot of good to talk a lot more often and just be around people I'm familiar with. So yeah, I think that's been the hardest part so far for me. OP Omega Beast 31 wants to know, if you could try to rebuild any team in the league, what would it be? I think I'd go with the Boston Uprising just because I firmly believe they're in one of the worst positions out of every single team in the league. I believe that the roster needs a big time overhaul. There are a few pieces I like Fusions. I really do like him. I think Color Hex has potential as well, maybe even Blase. But other than those guys, I think there's a lot of mediocre talent that should be replaced. So I'd go with Boston. Stroys Out wants to know, what streamers do I watch, assuming that I do that? Well, first off, yeah, I actually do watch streamers whenever I have the spare time, but the ones that I tend to watch the most include Agilities, because he's my favorite player, duh, why wouldn't I watch him? Then there's Kareev, I think Space is good, Super, Sleepy, Aimbot Calvin's pretty good here and there. I like Jake whenever he streams, Sabiobi. The list kind of goes on and on. The next question comes from Anime, and this person wants to know what my opinion on Echo is, what role I think she'll be, and if I could come up with a single ability for her to use. So first off, I think Echo's a pretty interesting character. We only really saw her in what, like a cinematic or whatever with McCree, or am I thinking of a different character? I don't even know, but I'd say that she'll be, I don't know, a support. And then maybe one of her abilities can be like a healing field, kind of like soldiers almost, but maybe like there's some sort of other advantage it gives you. I don't know. I'm not super creative with that kind of stuff, but yeah, there's your answer. Reality Alex wants to know if I script my videos, and if so, how long does it tend for me to do so? Well, first off, yeah, I do script my videos. I'd say about 90% of my stuff is scripted. The only time it isn't is if I'm doing Q&A stuff like this, or if there's an update video, or if it's a news video, like if a big trade happens. I want to try and report on it as fast as I possibly can, so I tend to not script any of that stuff, but everything else, yeah, it's scripted. And how long it takes me to do it, well, it depends, really. If I want to go into a lot of detail, then the scripts usually end up being super long. So I'd say if I'm going to do like a normal size video, like 10 minutes, it probably takes me like 4 hours or so, I'd say, to make a script. It all really depends on my motivation, if I'm feeling super lazy or not, I guess. So yeah, hope that answers your question. Claxity says, hey, handsome ATP, what's your plan with this channel once Overwatch League ends out? Well, first off, thank you for calling me handsome. I appreciate that. But I'm assuming you mean once this season ends. I don't think you mean if Overwatch League dies, period. So to answer that first thing, I'm probably just going to do a bunch of off-season stuff, and maybe I'll do contenders things if I get bored. I'm definitely going to try and cover some World Cup stuff as well. I have a lot of things in the works. There's definitely some ideas I have brewing up in my head, so don't be too worried. There will be plenty of content to come once the season ends. Ishan Gupta says, if you had to delete any hero from the game, who would it be? Kind of hard to say. I've never been a huge fan of Doomfist because I suck with him, and also I tend to just get wrecked by him if I'm playing support in particular. So yeah, I'll go with Doomfist because I find him very annoying. MLG Chespin asks, who do you think is the most improved Owl player from 2018 to 2019? Well, first off, that's a really good question. Second, I'd say probably Sinatra. You can make an argument for Super as well, But I think Sinatra is pretty deserving of this kind of award just because, you know, he went from this super overhyped guy in 2018. He was supposed to be the hard carry for the Shock, but he ended up kind of crumbling under the pressure. He was super nervous on stage a lot of the time. You could really tell he was struggling. But then come this year, he ends up being one of the most dominant players in the league, and he wins the MVP. Like, I think that's all the evidence you need, really, to say that he's the most improved player. I think you could kind of say the same with Super, just because kind of mediocre in 2018. Then in 2019, he's arguably the best Reinhardt, and he's also an MVP candidate. So I'd say one of those two is pretty fair, but I'll go with Sinatra. Light Death Guy wants to know, do you prefer YouTube on dark mode or light mode? No preference, really. On mobile, I tend to use dark, but then, like, if I'm on my laptop, I use light mode. It's really weird, but yeah, that's how it is. So no preference. It really depends on what device I'm using. Daniel Kim says, hey ATP, I asked you to do every best player for each hero, but you said there weren't enough players picking heroes. Can you do it now? Yeah, I'll probably do something like that once the off season comes, because I feel like that would make for a good video then. So yeah, I'll probably do a best player for each hero video in the future now that GOATS isn't just being played all the time, so stay tuned for that, guys. Zubezdu wants to know, what other games did I play before Overwatch, and how does that experience help in game? Well, that's actually a pretty, like, vague question. No offense, but, like, I could say a lot of different answers for that since I've been a gamer for my whole life. I played everything from platformers to first-person shooters to third-person shooters. If we're talking like specifically other shooter games, I've played a lot of Call of Duty and Battlefield in my lifetime, and those experiences kind of help in game because, for one, they've kind of helped me learn to aim a little bit. I think Overwatch helped me refine my aim a lot because that's one of the shooters I played the most of in my lifetime. But yeah, also just like the teamwork aspect and trying to make sure your other teammates can pop off. I've always loved being able to support other people and watch them do all the work. I love team-oriented games, so that's part of the reason I'm so attracted to being a support player in Overwatch, I feel like. Me's Q&A question is, we know your favorite team, but what is your least favorite team? So there isn't like a team in specific that I don't like because of their players or anything or their coaches. I actually don't mind just about every single team, but the problem lies within certain fan bases for me. So if I had to pick a team, I'd go with London. No offense, London fans, but a bunch of you guys just say things that kind of trigger me. I'm sorry, that's just how I feel. So yeah, I'll go with London just because of the fans. Leo Thomas asks, if you got to choose the OWL 2019 MVP, which player would you give it to and why? Well, to be honest, I definitely would have given it to Sinatra. I think that the league made the right decision there. I believe that Sinatra's been one of the most dominant players in the league this year. I know some people say, oh, he didn't play all that much in Stage 4, but for the majority of the year, he was playing and dominating, and this includes the playoffs. His Doomfist has been nasty, but more than anything, he was the best Zarya by far, in my opinion, for basically 3 straight stages. Summonsoo was pretty comparable, but Sinatra's stats were still better. Like, he was just so good at what he did. Definitely one of the most dominant players in the league. So yeah, I'd go with Sinatra for sure. Rafael Montiero wants to know, who do I main in Overwatch? I've said this before, I think, in my 1K video, but I don't really main anybody these days. I used to play a lot of Lucio. He was my main for a while, but these days I'm kind of more of just a flex player. I just play whatever I have to. Kangatom wants to know, who do I want to win the finals? Well, to be honest, at this point, I don't care who wins. I don't mind if the Shock or the Titans win. I really don't have much of a preference. I'm happy that London's out because now I don't have to hear London fans say that they won 2 championships in a row, so I'm cool with whoever wins. If it's the Titans, I think it makes for a good story. If it's the Shock, I also think it makes for a good story, so I don't care. No preference. The Piranha Plant wants to know, how do you deal with negativity in your life? Now that is a really good and interesting question. And the first thing that I will say about this is that it's not easy for me, kind of like with many other human beings out there. I, for one, have always dealt with anxiety and self-esteem issues, and anxiety in particular makes it so you tend to have a lot of negative thoughts about everything, and you just constantly tell yourself, you can't do this, you can't do this, you're not good enough. And that makes it really, really difficult. But I battle through it, whether I'm dealing with something in my social life, or perhaps I see some negative YouTube comments that bring me down. I always remember there's a lot more positive in my life than there is negative, and that things will always get better. Like, take the YouTube comment thing for an example. There's so many more positive people out there than there are negative in this community. So like, for every 10 negative comments I get, I'll probably get like 100 plus positive comments. So those people are, I'm going to see their comments a lot more, you know? It's not likely that I'll see a lot of the negative comments unless I read through every single comment, you know? If there's any of you out there who have a hard time dealing with negativity, kind of like with myself, just remember, think positive. I don't care how difficult it is, just think about something good in your life. It's always going to get better, I promise you. I don't care how crappy your life is or how good it is. No matter what's going on, if there's something negative affecting you, just remember, there's always something that will be able to turn your life around if you believe. Just don't give up. Do not give up hope. 51st Player says, does my profile pic make you think I'm a girl because I'm actually a guy? Well, to be honest, it really didn't. I don't like to assume people's genders on this platform unless they straight up tell me what they are, you know? Just because you have a pink background, well, like, what is that, SpongeBob, doesn't make me think you're a girl or anything. So no, I didn't actually think you were a girl because of your profile picture. Nerd Overwatch asks, now knowing how much Nero dumpstered the Hunters, would you still think that the LA Valiant would have made it to the playoffs? Well, first off, I don't really recall saying the Valiant would have made it to the playoffs. I thought maybe they could have made the play-ins, but if they did, I wouldn't have high expectations for them. And to answer your question, yeah, they probably wouldn't have fared much better against the Charge than the Hunters did, unless like Space or McGravy was this crazy Sigma player or something. So yeah, they probably would have gotten destroyed by the Charge as well. Al Run says, which character would you like to cosplay as? Probably Reinhardt. I think it would be a lot of fun to dress up in that crazy armor he has and use that huge hammer, so I'd go with Rein. Next up, Tangling22 says, any collabs with other YouTubers? I actually do want to do some collabs in the future. I can't really say with who or when it's going to happen because I'm a busy guy, but I will tell you guys that collabs will happen eventually in the future. That's something I would like to work on. Well, that's pretty much all the time I have for this Q&A, unfortunately. I really wanted to keep it between like 15 and 20 minutes, so I apologize if I did not get to any of your questions. I know there's a bunch I left out, but I didn't want this video to be too long, so I hope you guys can understand. And again, if I did not get to your question, feel free to throw it down in the comment section, and I will answer it if I see it for sure. I hope you guys know a little bit more about me now, and hopefully you enjoyed this as much as I did making it. I had an absolute blast, and if you'd like to maybe see some more Q&A videos in the future, then make sure to let me know down in the comment section. Perhaps we can make this into some sort of video series that I do monthly or weekly, whatever it is, but I'd be totally down for that if you guys are. So yeah, if you enjoyed this video today, make sure to hit that like button, and once again, thank you all so much for allowing me to reach 10K. I love you all so much, and until next time, this is ATP, signing out. Thank you guys for watching. Peace.